Hi, welcome friends to episode 80 of Faith, Fitness, Joy. Today I am discussing weight loss plateau and what you can do to bust through it and continue toward your weight loss goals. So today I'm going to cover first, of course, what a weight loss plateau is. Second, the biological factors of weight loss plateaus. Three, psychological factors. And four, nutritional strategies that you can use to break plateau. So, as many of you may know from listening to this podcast for a while, over the many 30 years of weightlifting, dieting, and finding my balance in health and nutrition, I have hit plateau myself many times. And it is absolutely one of the most frustrating things that I've ever experienced in my weight loss journey. And I'm sure many of you can appreciate that, as you know, I think we all run into it at one point or another in our weight loss journeys. And I have also experienced how demoralizing it can be to hit these weight loss plateaus. You know, there's been times that it has just led me into like this spiral of sort of self-sabotage, resulting in gaining some of my weight back after, working so hard to lose a few pounds. And then just getting to this point where it's like I just kind of throw my hands up because I get so frustrated. And I'm actually going to get into some of that in some future episodes because it's a whole thing in itself, right? But fortunately, I am not one to give up easily. So I am grateful for my tenacity because of that. And I tend to not stay down for too long. You know, I get knocked down at times like anyone else, but I do always seem to find my way back up and back on track. So, weight loss plateaus have been behind my having tried so many different things that I also talk about a lot in this podcast and in my blog. I am very open about having tried all of the different things: workout program, diet, types of exercise, supplements, pills, whatever you name it, I've probably tried it. And in all the decades that I've been doing this, I have learned that plateaus are inevitable, but they're not infinite or insurmountable, right? There are ways that we can break through them. Like I said, the good news is they don't last forever and they can be navigated, and there are ways that we can bust through them and get ourselves moving forward in the way that we want to go again. So let's just jump right into the content for today and what we're talking about with weight loss plateau. So the first thing is understanding what exactly a weight loss plateau is. Like, what does that mean, right? So it's basically when you stop losing weight after you have been losing weight for a period of time as a result of some sort of, concerted or focused effort to lose weight. So let's say that you've been on some sort of a diet and exercise program for some amount of time. And let's just say hypothetically, you've been doing this for maybe 3 months. And so every couple weeks consistently over that time, you've been seeing progress either in terms of the scale going down and your measurements getting smaller, maybe both of those or one of those, if not both of them, because sometimes, it's one or the other. And then all of a sudden, it just seems to stop. And then you find yourself sort of stuck at the same weight no matter what you do, and you can't seem to break past that weight. On the upside, maybe you're not gaining any weight, you're not moving backwards in the direction that you don't want to be going, but you're still not where you want to be, and you're trying to you have more weight to lose or more progress you want to make in terms of becoming smaller or changing your physique, and you're just not there, and you can't seem to move forward. So that's what a weight loss plateau is. Having experienced these myself, I can tell you that they can last for weeks, they can last for months, they can even last for years. I have been, there have been times where I've been stuck at the same weight for well over a year, and not shrinking further, not gaining, and not losing anymore. So I definitely understand this. It is something I have experienced myself, and it is something that is just kind of a part of the game, if you will, when it comes to changing your body, losing weight, whatever. But again, it is something that is not permanent and it can be, we can navigate it. So let's get into what some of the biological factors behind weight loss plateaus are. So there's a number of different biological factors that can cause weight loss plateaus, and we can bust through these, but you have to kind of understand what's happening so that you can sort of align the strategy accordingly. And there's actually a few different biological factors behind weight loss plateau, and I'm going to touch on them somewhat briefly today. So the first one is called adaptive thermogenesis. And it's essentially where your body responds to you losing weight by retaining weight or by slowing your metabolism down and basically kind of resisting your efforts to lose weight. And it does this as a way of sort of conserving energy. And basically, it's a survival mechanism, right? It's like your body is realizing like your reserves are going down, this fat that it's stored for, whenever we're, in some sort of a famine, so to speak. Um, those are starting to get depleted. And so your body will start to do things to try to hold on to those reserves and prevent you from losing any more weight. And when we lose weight, especially if we're doing this somewhat quickly, so this is where some of these kind of bad diets can backfire, our body will respond by resisting our efforts. And it's just, it can be so frustrating and it probably seems really unfair, doesn't it? Um, and I've discussed this a lot in some of my recent episodes on body types that I did a little while back, because it does relate to that to an extent. So you might want to go check those out for more information about kind of what that is and how it looks for different body types and how you can work with whatever body type you might have. So I'm not going to repeat all of that here, but I do invite you to go check out some of those episodes that I did about body types and different strategies you can try because it definitely relates. But in a nutshell, you need to look at ways that you can kind of trick your body past this sort of tendency to hold on to or resist the weight loss efforts that you're working so hard on. And you can do this through a number of different strategies that I'll touch on a little bit later. But I also go into these, a couple of them anyway, in the body type episode. So check that out. But this is things like looking at how you can basically vary or alter your caloric intake every day throughout the week. So, and again, there's different strategies for how you can do that. But the idea is that you're kind of doing some sort of cycle where you're eating a certain amount every couple days, and then you're either spiking it or dropping it down 1 or 2 days a week, depending. And you can kind of play with the schedule on that to see what your body responds to. So that's one thing that you can look at. So another biological factor that has to do with weight loss plateau is hormonal changes. And this primarily involves the satiety hormone and the hunger hormone, or leptin and ghrelin, respectively. So our weight loss can affect our hormone levels, particularly with these two hormones, since obviously these are the two that are governing when our body feels full and when our body is feeling like it's hungry. And so as we do these different efforts to lose weight and whatnot, it can start to trigger our body's levels of these hormones because we're basically kind of changing our body and we're changing what we're doing day to day. So that's going to trigger some sort of response in the body. And sometimes it will lead to these hormonal changes that can make it more challenging for us to lose weight. So when, like I said, some of the things we can try and that we can explore to move past this are things like carb cycling or calorie cycling of some type to sort of trick the body into letting go and not feeling like it needs to hold on to or slow the metabolism down in response. Because the body's just doing this because it's like a trigger when we start to lose weight and maintain a caloric deficit. The body is going into like this famine mode and it's trying to prepare for like a longer term famine. And so it's going to resist letting go of its reserves. And it's also going to try to find ways to hold on to whatever it is you are consuming. So So another thing you can try is to look at a very nutrient dense diet. So, really looking at adding in more vegetables and fruits and other types of foods that are going to help give your body good fuel, because um, it's going to help mitigate some of the impacts of these hormonal changes that are happening. And basically, when your body feels nourished, even, well, let me back up. So the nutrient dense kind of approach will help you, one, it will help you stay in a deficit, but it's also providing your body with more vitamins, minerals, nutrients, right? So it's going to help mitigate that, the natural response of the body to try to hold on to reserves, because as long as your body's nutritional needs are being met, it's not going to feel the need to do that. It's not going to have that response on the hormonal level. But the flip side of that is you have to be providing it what it needs to function well and function properly. So that's where the nutrient dense eating approach can be really valuable. Another thing to look at when it comes to hormonal changes as a factor for weight loss plateau is your sleep. So it's often leads to some of these hormonal changes that we experience, and sleep can actually affect a number of hormones, including those that are tied to hunger and satiation. So you want to look at your sleep habits, your sleep routine, and make sure that you are prioritizing good sleep and getting enough sleep. A lot of us do not get enough sleep. I was guilty of this for many years. I was very resistant to, like, sort of exploring my sleep routine and cleaning it up, if you will, and like giving myself a quote unquote bedtime. And it's not like it has to be so in stone, but you want to be making sure you're getting, 7 hours of sleep minimum. I think most people need 7 to 9 hours of sleep to, function well and all of that. So look at your sleep routine, and see what you can do to kind of tighten that up or clean that up, because it could definitely be affecting your weight loss efforts. I do have a couple episodes that I've produced, and also some blog posts that are specifically focused on sleep. So if you want to check those out for more information, one of them is episode 35, How Sleep Affects Weight Loss. And the other one is episode 45, how to establish a sleep routine, if you're looking for some suggestions to do that for yourself. So another biological factor that comes into play around weight loss plateau is muscle loss. So depending on how you are approaching your weight loss, right? Like depending on what you're doing, you could be losing muscle mass and losing fat at the same time. You don't want to do this, but a lot of times we're doing this without really realizing it, especially women. I've been there, done that myself, because a lot of us are raised, or we at some point in time adopt this belief that cardio is like everything and that's what you need to do, and it's all about a huge caloric deficit and tons of cardio. And so that's what we go do, and we completely screw up our hormones and our bodies and our metabolism in the process. So and one of the ways that this happens is because we lose muscle because we're not eating enough, and then we're doing these crazy cardio routines, and that's all we're doing. So, one of the things that you could do to mitigate this is to find ways to build muscle mass and or maintain the muscle mass that you have. So the reason this is so important is because your muscle, it helps boost your metabolism. The muscle, like maintaining your muscle mass, has a higher caloric requirement, if you will, than it does to maintain, like, say, fat, right? So when you have a certain amount of, like, a base level muscle mass, you're already going to be burning X number of calories more than if you don't have as much of that muscle mass. So that's one reason it's really important to have it, in addition to the numerous other benefits of, having a lot of good muscle mass in your body. So you want to look at how you can increase that, and you want to do that with things like including weightlifting or strength training as part of your workout routine. So don't just do cardio. You don't want to have a routine that consists only of you, running X amount of miles every day, or doing nothing but cardio or aerobics or, Orange Theory or any of these kind of like really high intensity workout routines. You want to make sure that you're also including strength training or weightlifting. And you want to make sure you're eating enough protein because, like, if you think about, like, to oversimplify it, protein is kind of like muscle food, right? So you want to feed your muscles, and you do that by making sure that you're getting a base, like, minimum level of protein, if not even higher levels of protein. That's going to help you build up more muscle mass. And no, you're not going to get bulky. It's going to give you the shape where you want the shape. It's going to help your body look better actually when you have more muscle mass. So um, that's another really important thing to consider with regard to weight loss plateau and some ways that you can break through it. And then the last of the biological factors I wanted to touch on today is stress and cortisol. So in a nutshell, chronic stress can lead to plateau or even weight gain, despite other stuff that you're doing, as frustrating as that is. Chronic stress actually results in our body producing higher levels of the hormone cortisol, which many of you may be familiar with. And it is basically your stress hormone, or you can also think of it as your fat storage hormone, because that's basically what it does when it comes to the context of what we're talking about here. And in particular, it shows up on your belly, and that's where it likes to hang out. So if you are in a constant state of stress, your body is working to create like this protective layer of fat in response to that, um, with the higher cortisol levels. So again, you can, it can, in some ways, it won't even matter what else you're doing in terms of diet, exercise, if your stress levels are out of control and you're not managing your stress. So it is really crucial to manage your stress as part of your overall wellness routine. Again, another lesson I've learned the hard way, and I speak from experience around this. And one of the things that I have learned about this is that you really have to be aware of it first, right? So what's so scary about the stress thing, and this is what I've experienced myself, is you almost, it's like you become completely oblivious to it after a point in time. When you're in a chronic stress state, um, you basically adapt. Like your body just finds ways for you to deal with it and be okay with it. And then we do all these other things to make ourselves feel like we're functioning okay, right? Like we'll drink a ton of coffee, we'll drink energy drinks, we'll rely on these other things to help keep us going. Um, and because we manage to keep going and we don't like fall over or pass out or something like that, we think we're fine, right? And really we're not. So just because like you're getting through the day and like maintaining a certain lifestyle and routine that is really stressful, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually okay. Um, but again, we can become very disconnected from this, because of our schedules, because of our routines and our habits and all of that. And so it's very easy to become unaware of our stress, and how it's actually affecting us. So that is something to look at. And the first thing you have to do is really kind of check in with yourself and kind of assess if you probably do have chronic stress levels that you need to look at how you can manage. And then once you do that, you can start to look at different ways that you can manage that stress so that you can start to counteract the effects of it, and start to, reduce those levels of cortisol in the body. And I have tons of other episodes where I talk about this either directly or indirectly, because I also have a lot of episodes around, spiritual growth, mental health, mental well-being, managing stress. So check out some of my other episodes, because I have a lot of great stuff for some tips that you can use to help manage your stress. Okay, so another way that, or another kind of category, if you will, of factors that lead to us experiencing these weight loss plateaus are psychological factors. And so this category is a whole episode on its own, and I'm actually going to be covering this more deeply in next week's episode, so check that out. But for today, I'm just going to be listing what these are, so that you can get a sense of these other types of factors that play into when we run into a weight loss plateau. And again, I'm going to be doing a whole episode about this next week. So keep your eyes out for that. It will be on the Monday episode next week. So, what are some of these psychological factors? Well, one of them is our expectations versus reality. So, all I will say about this is it's basically the idea that, we start off on some sort of weight loss journey or whatever. And a lot of this is related to the fitness industry too, right? Like, we hear things like, 21 days to reach your goal body or get your bikini ready get bikini ready in 6 weeks and crap like this, right? So we hear this kind of stuff and then we think like, oh, we're going to go embark on this new bikini body in 6 weeks thing, and then when we don't have a bikini body in 6 weeks, like we get discouraged and frustrated, whatever. So those are some examples of expectations versus reality. Another category or another type of psychological factor that we experience, as I talked about a little bit, is because it's also a biological factor, is stress, right? Because again, but there's a number of other things that happen, and other hormones that come into play when we're in chronic states of stress, like adrenaline is another one. And the idea here is we a lot happens in our brains on a day-to-day basis. Like we are telling ourselves all these stories all day, every day about all kinds of different things. So it's not just like the day-to-day stress that we experience like consciously, but it's also all the stuff that we're experiencing on a psychological level as a result of our thinking, our limiting beliefs, our thought patterns, and all that kind of stuff. And then another type of psychological factor is things like unconscious habits. So things that we are doing all the time that we're maybe not aware that we're doing, um, like just a lack of self-awareness, especially about our behaviors and habits that can be leading us to either gaining weight or just having a harder time losing weight or causing us to have plateaus. Another one is self sabotage and fear of success. And I've talked about this indirectly in some other episodes that I've done. And this factor alone could be a whole other episode in itself. I mean, this is really about limiting beliefs and or underlying unhealed trauma that you've experienced that then translates to self sabotage or different types of fear in our day to day life and behaviors that we engage in, often completely unconsciously because they're so ingrained in our way of being, that affect our weight loss and a number of other things that we're, doing in our day to day life. So that's another really big one. Um, a, Another psychological factor is body image and self esteem. So, how we perceive our bodies. I've talked about this a lot. I actually recently did an episode on body dysmorphia. That's something I've experienced myself. That's something I think a lot of people experience. Um, and there are different forms of body dysmorphia that I talked about in there as well. And then it often like results in self-esteem, right? Like our body image gets like all tangled up with our esteem or vice versa, however you want to conceive of that. But so those are some other factors that affect us that really like, come into play when it comes to um, running into sort of weight loss plateaus. And then another category is adherence to routine. So just, different psychological factors that come into play whenever you're trying to make a change, whenever you're trying to establish a new routine or break away from your existing routine and things like that. So we'll talk about that a lot more in depth in next week's episode on Monday. And then another sort of category of factors that come into play when it comes to weight loss plateau is nutritional strategies, or not not factors that cause plateau, but things we can do to mitigate or break through these plateaus that we experience. Again, this is a whole topic in itself and a whole episode in itself that I am going to be covering in a future episode to really go into depth on all of these. So you have lots of great tools and resources available to you to help you with breaking through these plateaus. Because again, it's super frustrating and everybody's different. And so depending on where you are in your weight loss journey, your your body type and other types of things and which factors are maybe more predominant in your particular case, is going to dictate like which of these strategies you might want to employ to help break through the plateau. But just to give you a sense of some of the different things that you can try, and you can dig into these yourself if you want to check out more information on any of these that intrigue you. The first one is carb cycling. I've talked about this in previous episodes as well. The idea here is that you're just eating different levels of carbohydrates throughout the week on different days. It's one of these ways that we can trick the metabolism to help mitigate some of the things I've already touched on in this episode today around, the hormonal factors and some of the biological factors that come into play. Another thing you can look at is macro adjustments, right? So if you do macro tracking, and you find that after maybe 2 cycles of being at a certain levels of macros, you're stuck, that's when you might want to look at adjusting your macros, and seeing if that helps you break through your plateau. Another thing you can try is intermittent fasting. So in addition to whatever nutrition plan you might be utilizing, it might not hurt to give it a try to see if you do intermittent fasting in addition to or coupling that with whatever diet you're following. Nutrient timing is another thing you can check out. Increasing your fiber intake. It may seem like one of these things, it doesn't seem like a very big deal, but it actually is a huge factor is our fiber intake. So look at where you are and see, how you can bump up the amount of fiber you're eating every day, because it will help. Similar to having the higher amount of muscle mass, in eating enough fiber is going to help with revving up your metabolism. Drinking more water is another one. I think a lot of us do not get enough water, so do not underestimate the power of good hydration when it comes to losing weight. Changing your snacks or your snacking habits. So even if you're eating healthy and you're following an overall good diet approach, you might just need to change it out or cut back on some things. Again, to help your body break through that plateau. So especially if you kind of get in a rut or certain things that we kind of tend to go to all the time, might be time to swap those out, or maybe even cut one of your snacks out and see what happens with your weight and how that affects you. And then another thing is considering supplements. I'm not, I know some people will tell you that you don't need supplements and that they're all kind of a waste. And there's a lot of them that kind of are, but there's also some that can be really helpful. And quite frankly, if you're doing all the things and you're stuck and you've been stuck for a while, like I have many times in my life, like I am not ashamed to try some supplements. In fact, there's one I've been using for a while that I'm still kind of assessing whether it's how it's helping me. I use there's a pre-workout and then there's some other components that can help with certain types of fat loss, and when you're sort of stuck or struggling with that. So more to come on that as I sort of see where I'm at and how it's helping me. But again, try some of those things and see what helps. And another note about that really quick is that it doesn't have to be a weight loss supplement per se, because again, back to some of these psychological factors, or even some of these biological factors that we've been talking about, it could be that you have some deficiency somewhere in your diet or something like that, or you just need to balance something back out, right? I've talked a lot about adrenal burnout in some of my other episodes. So and the stress management, right? So there are supplements that can help with that. And in taking those and either balancing your hormones or helping to mitigate the effects of stress with that supplementation, that can result in you breaking through that plateau. So there's a number of different things you can try related to that I'll touch on more in future episodes. So my friends, that is what I have for you for today's episode about weight loss plateaus. And I really do hope that this has helped giving you some insights as to what might be causing your plateau and some things you can look at to help you bust out of it, because there's nothing more frustrating than, doing all the things and just feeling like you're not getting anywhere, like that feeling of like running in the hamster wheel is just, it can be demoralizing. I totally get it. So I just really wanted to put some stuff together to help you with that, especially like being in the beginning of a new year. And a lot of you might be embarking on, some new weight loss efforts. And it just takes the wind out of your sails when you make some progress and then stop making progress. So please don't give up. Keep going no matter what. Dig into some of this, try some of these strategies. Stay tuned for future episodes because I'm going to be going more in depth on some of these. And in the meantime, I also have lots of other great content in some of my previous episodes and on my blog that can help you along your journey, especially if you're just starting out. So, all right. And then last but not least, I just have a couple announcements about some new programs that I've created and I'm super excited about. So I am just thrilled to announce Phoenix Rising. It is my baby. It is my heart. I am just so excited about it. And this is a variety of different programs that I've created depending on what you're looking for. So I have something for you if you are really just looking for something that you can do on your own. Like maybe you just need some workouts and you need some general guidance for nutrition. So I have something for that. I also have something that combines that workout plan with nutrition as well as some e-courses and training that you can do on your own timing and refer back to as often as you like. So I have sort of the done by you type of packages. I also have several different group coaching packages for you, whether it's 3 month or 6 month, that you'll be able to get access to me in a group coaching format. You'll have community support. You'll have lots of great content on the coaching calls. You'll get access to trainings and educational content, all related to helping you boost your success. And then I also have private one-on-one coaching available as well, if that's something that you're interested in, feel like that would be what's going to help take you to the next. All of this is designed not just to help you lose weight. That's definitely a big component and what sort of was at the foundation of me developing these, but they're also really designed to give you a total transformation of the mind, body, and soul, because that's really what it takes. It takes all three of these components of your being working optimally together. You are not just a physical body, you are a spirit, and you also have this beautiful tool called the mind. And so all of these programs are designed to help you get in the best health of all three of those things, so that you can become your healthiest, happiest, most aligned version of you. So, my friends, with that, I am going to sign off. That's all I have for you in today's episode. If you are interested in learning more about any of these programs, click the link in the episode description. You can book a free transformation session with me. So even if you're not necessarily sure about getting into any of the programs, I'm just going to sit down with you and help you develop a plan to help get you to your goals, whatever they may be with regard to your health and your fitness. So that concludes today's episode of Faith, Fitness, Joy. As always, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next episode.